what are your overall takeaways from the Heat's loss in Game 7, and where do you think they go from here?
Bro, Jimmy needs help. Listen, I talk so highly of Jimmy Butler. I'm not going to get off the Jimmy Butler hype train because he deserves so much credit for doing this in the way that he does it, bro. It's back to back Eastern Conference Finals appearances in terms of like when the Heat are ready to go. We're talking about the bubble year and then this year, so maybe not back to back, but their last two Eastern Conference Finals appearances or last two deep postseason runs, Jimmy Butler has played the entire game a multitude of times in a postseason run. Jimmy Butler is the leading scorer of this team, and he is not one of those bucket go-getters. He's not known for his offense, so to speak. He's not a consistent shooter. But Kyle and I have talked about it all postseason. When they need it, when it's the playoffs, Jimmy's like the best player on the court majority of the time. 47 points in Game 6, 35 in, in a Game 7 at home, and he plays the whole game. Where's the backup, bro? This is Bam's second biggest game in the playoffs. 25 points. Kyle Lowry scores 15, but again, I'm chalking this up to injuries. Miami, if healthy, I think potentially could take this series. Tyler Hero goes down. Obviously, Kyle Lowry was missing significant time. Jimmy Butler's knee was banged up, so he missed the second half of a game. I'm just saying, it happened to be unfortunate, but the rest of that team, Strus didn't show up. Vincent didn't show up. Oladipo didn't show up today. Like, the people picked a bad day to take a day off is what I'm trying to get at. So shots weren't falling down for Miami tonight, but overall, the fact that they were here speaks volume of the coaching staff and the team. Coming up this offseason, I don't necessarily know what they're going to do. Obviously, Jimmy's locked in there for another couple of years. Bam's locked in there for another couple of years. I believe Kyle Lowry's in there for another 2. Tyler Hero's due for an extension. What do you do with the rest of the team? I think Strus signed a 2-year deal, two-way at the beginning of this year, but I mean, obviously, he's going to earn more money and more minutes because he was a great player this year. I think he averaged like 12 and a half, 13 points this season for them. You have to look at it. Is PJ Tucker coming back? Is Udonis Haslem, who plays no minutes but is on the roster, is he coming back for his mediator coaching role that he kind of does there, like the OG of the team? Is Gabe Vincent coming back? There's a lot of question marks as to what roster Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley are going to be able to assimilate behind Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo being the leaders of this team. But you have to look at this, man. Low key, and I mean this in the most respectful way. Low key, the Kyle Lowry signing wasn't necessarily the greatest. He wasn't healthy all year. When he wasn't the greatest player. Obviously, he's getting older in age, but now you got to worry about Kyle Lowry next season again with injuries. He's owed a couple million dollars. I believe he signed a 3-year, $90 million deal, if I'm not mistaken. So that averages out to just a bit of over $30 million a season. I don't necessarily know if he's worth that kind of money, but here we are. So it's going to be a complicated offseason. I think Miami's going to have to make some adjustments. I think that they're going to need another player next to Bam and Jimmy to really make a run because we know how competitive the Eastern Conference has become over the last couple of years. But Miami will be back. Let's not get it twisted. As long as you have Jimmy Butler on this team and Eric Spoelstra to lead them from the coaching side, it's just a matter of what pieces you put around him. Bam's just got to play better on a more consistent basis. I mean, he had 2 20-point games in this entire series. He had single-digit points in 3 out of the 7. It's not good enough. That's not how you get stuff done. If you're a max player for the Miami Heat, if you're a max player in the NBA, you don't not show up for work in important playoff games. So, like I said, Miami's fine. I think they just need to figure out what they're doing roster-wise. I think they need to figure out what they're going to do with their cap situation. Obviously, you're kind of tied down to a couple of players specifically, and Tyler Hero is going to be due for a big extension. So we'll see what happens, but I firmly believe Miami will be back next season.
I mean, I'm of the mindset that Miami's not going anywhere in the near future. I think they fell one short. They fell one game short of the NBA Finals, and this could have potentially been their second Finals appearance in the last 2 years. So,
3.
well, that bubble finals took place in 2020. So I'm kind of basing it off of
Yeah,
that.
yeah. No, I got you. I
So,
got you.
but I mean, by and large, I mean, I think the team is relatively fine. It's, I think the main thing that they're going to have to focus on here is mostly just role players. 'Cause I think when it comes to Jimmy, Bam, like those two are fine. I do agree with you with the Kyle Lowry one. I think that signing may turn out to be kind of an ugly one looking back at it, just knowing how injury prone Kyle Lowry was this season. But when it comes to Miami, I actually have a lot of confidence in this team moving forward, and I'm gonna do my best to explain why. So the way that I see it is, Jimmy Butler, even though that the Heat are not advancing to the NBA Finals, he has really shown me that I got to respect this guy once it gets to the playoffs. Is Jimmy the most flashy? Is he the best player in the NBA during the regular season? No. But when it comes to the playoffs, this dude is ready to go to war every game. Because when I look at Jimmy's effectiveness, for God's sakes, the guy already has 6 40-point performances in his 3 years with the Heat. He is one behind Dwayne Wade in that regard. And Dwayne Wade played with the Heat for over 15 years. That's incredible in what Jimmy's been able to do in such a relatively short period of time. And I think as long as Jimmy stays healthy moving forward, I think he's going to be able to probably break that record fairly quickly when the Heat do get to the playoffs next year, because I don't see them out of the playoffs next year. They're going to definitely be at the top of the Eastern Conference with the way that this team is assembled. Kevin, I'm in full agreement with you on the Bam Adebayo angle on this one. Bam's got to be better. If Bam's getting this max contract type of money, you got to do better than single point performances in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now, granted, Jimmy had some bad games in the Eastern Conference Finals too. I'm not going to dispute that. But you cannot have multiple single digit performance games because you're leaving your team out to, you're leaving your team out to dry in that regard. And granted, Bam showed up in game 7. I'm not going to argue with that. He had 25 and 11. He did what he needed to do. But, there were some games that Miami could have had if Bam was a little bit more effective from the field or just made a bigger impact overall. And unfortunately, in this series against Boston, he fell a little bit short in that regard. When I look at the rest of the team, though, Kyle Lowry's getting up there in age. I don't know how effective he's going to be for Miami moving forward, simply just because if Kyle Lowry is going to go into, I think he's going to be 36 next year. He's already injury prone to begin with. He's making over $30 million on this contract that he signed with the Heat this past offseason. Is he going to be somebody that you can rely to be there when the moment is there for Miami to possibly get to a, a finals appearance or just try to be more of a factor in the Eastern Conference going into next year? I don't really know. And then when I look at some of the role players, I liked Max Strus from this regular season. I thought that Max Strus was a great piece that Miami had in their starting five, but there were some games where, let's face it, didn't really work out. I actually remember seeing, this was a stat that I saw from Twitter just a couple days ago when they were diving into the effectiveness that Max Strus and Kyle Lowry had in the backcourt for Miami. There was a stretch where Strus and Kyle Lowry went combined 1 of 28 or 1 of 29 as a duo. Can't have that, especially in an Eastern Conference Finals situation. So, maybe Miami retains them going into next year. Maybe not. We'll kind of see how it goes, because Max Strus could be looking at a situation where if there's possibility of getting a better contract somewhere in the near future, that could be something that he could entertain. Tyler Hero is going to be the interesting piece here, though. Guy won 6th man of the year this year. And I think, even though that he had that groin injury that definitely kept him on the sidelines the last couple games against Boston, if you're Miami from a front office perspective, you got to keep him in the fold. He's too valuable to give up. He's been solid the entire year. He's been solid pretty much his entire tenure with the Heat up until this point. Just really the main thing was he just wasn't available in the last couple of games against Boston. And I think that hurt Miami in a pretty big way down the stretch where Miami could have gone to the finals. So all in all, I think Miami's in a pretty good place here. They have a great coach in Eric Spoelstra. It seems like this team is pretty stable going into next year. really the main thing if I'm Miami is just kind of work on the back end of the roster. The back end of the roster in the playoffs was a little bit weak in this Eastern Conference Finals matchup against Boston. Boston did kind of exploit that, but I don't think that they need to do anything drastic here. I think as long as they're able to retain the players that they have on the, as far as like Jimmy, Bam, Tyler Hero, maybe Max Strus, maybe you could throw him in there as well. I think this team will be pretty viable for the next couple of years. So I don't see the Heat going anywhere. They'll be right back in the fold next year. That's just how I see it.